So the first session, from fake news to viral facts, using short-form video to promote media literacy. It sounds very interesting and very promised with Enrique Anarte Lazo from Thomson Reuters Foundation and Carmella Boykin from the Washington Post. And why it sounds very promised? Of course, because both of them are brilliant. That's why we brought them here. But the other thing is that all of us are talking about these short-form videos and about sharing everything through a video and about using a video and how many seconds the duration should be of the video. But there's also something important. What about will be that video? And that video will be much more than an information. It can also has and carry a journalistic content. And these two speakers will share with us how, when, and why this will be very, very useful for all of us. So let's start the next sessions, which, as we said, brings together two creators who have mastered the language of vertical video and platforms, not just for entertainment, but for truth telling. They will show us how it can be a powerful tool for clarity, credibility, and connection, especially with younger audiences. Please welcome Enrique and Carmella.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Good afternoon. I hope you're ready. We're going to be talking about short-form video and media literacy, and we want to do that showing you some of the videos that we have produced in the past year. But first, we want to take a moment.
Absolutely. Okay, so we love this slide. We think it's so fun. So if the photographer can just take a fun little picture of us. Anyone want to take a picture of us right now? Stunning. Thank you. My name is Carmella Boykin. I'm a host and producer on the Washington Post Universe account, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm all the way up from DC, which is not that far. Enrique came all the way from Berlin. And on the Washington Post Universe team, we've won 5 Webby Awards. We just won 2 more a couple of weeks ago, which is really exciting. And I've been working at the Washington Post since December of 2021. But before this, I was a television news reporter in Rochester, New York. I studied broadcast journalism at Syracuse University, so I have a good idea of traditional journalism and then also working in social media. Our team is called the Washington Post Universe team because it encompasses all the different characters that we include on our account. And I work with 2 lovely gentlemen, Dave Jorgensen, who created our account in 2019, and Joseph Ferguson, who joined us 2 years ago. Our nickname is We Are a Newspaper because when Dave created the TikTok account in 2019, people thought his name was Washington and he was posting, or that the Washington Post was in Washington State, neither of which are true, so we changed the nickname on our account and it stuck, and that's our little motto. And our content lives across 3 different verticals. We work on TikTok, of course, but we also work on YouTube Shorts. That's our fastest growing platform, which is really exciting. And we're on Instagram Reels, which is having some slower growth, but we found that Instagram isn't necessarily super great for news content, so we're hit or miss there. That's the work we do.
My name's Enrique. I'm originally from Spain, but I've been living in Germany for 7 years. I work for the Thomson Reuters Foundation, which is Reuters' charitable arm. We cover human rights, climate change, the impact of tech in society, and there currently I work as a multimedia LGBTQ+ correspondent. By the end of the presentation, you won't believe this, but I did not want to be on camera when I started working. I only wanted to write stories. And then COVID came, and I was bored at home, and I started making TikToks, just like everyone else. And after a few months, I realized that I could use these new skills, these new formats, to reach new audiences with my journalism. And that's what made me start my own account. Later, we launched Openly, which was the first global LGBTQ+ channel on TikTok, which is one of the things I'm most proud of because it's not just me talking about what's happening in the world, but also journalists from all over the world, from Africa, Latin America, Asia. And yeah, so at the Thomson Reuters Foundation, I make videos, I write stories, and I've traveled the world. I'm very lucky to do that, covering queer rights in, by now, more than 20 countries. These are some of the, so Openly is our main channel covering LGBTQ+ rights. We also have Context, which is our biggest media brand, where I write stories. I've also produced a couple of short documentaries, and that's my personal channel where I also make my own videos. So we wanted to acknowledge that as journalists mostly working with social media formats, we have a problem of misinformation on social media. It's not exclusive to social media, but we deal with it every day. And obviously that this has become a big challenge for individuals who are targeted by this misinformation, but also for society as a whole. Like we've seen how Romania has had to repeat elections after a huge disinformation campaign. So, this has occupied ourselves. This is something that worries us a lot as people who are trying to provide information to audiences seeking for news online.
We also know the facts, which are that people get their news from social media. How many people in here get their news from social media? Like almost everybody, stunning. Based on Pew Research from 2024, we know that overall just half of US adults say they at least sometimes get their news from social media, and about half of TikTok users under 30 say they use it to keep up with politics and news. And if that's the case, it's really important that journalists and news organizations are on these platforms. So how do you counter misinformation on these platforms? One of the first most obvious ways is to take that information and break it down point by point. But when you're doing this, it's really important that your visuals are speaking the visual language of the platform. Your vertical content should look like it belongs on TikTok. It should look like it belongs on YouTube or Instagram or wherever you're posting it. You can even see just from this still, it looks like it belongs on TikTok based on the type of text that I'm using. And also, this piece of content was created in response to our audience questions to misinformation. You all are probably going to be familiar with this clip, so I'll show it to you, and then we'll break it down.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Is this real? No. Explain. This claim started in Springfield, Ohio, and as misinformation snowballed together. To be clear, no credible accounts of pets being abducted or eaten in Springfield have been documented. This tweet was posted by a popular account. It is a screenshot of a Facebook post claiming someone's neighbor's daughter's friend discovered that her neighbor, supposedly Haitian immigrants, were trying to eat her cat, and that apparently, according to rangers and police, it was happening to ducks and geese at a local park. The tweet also included this picture. I see. Then it was shared by right-wing people, including a Trump advisor. And then people started adding additional information to the original claim as if it were supporting evidence. Like this guy mentioning the ducks at a community meeting and this Ohio woman arrested for eating a cat. So it is real. No. This guy holding a goose comes from a Reddit post in Columbus, Ohio, an hour away. And the post hasn't been able to confirm his identity. We don't know his background and there's no evidence he's Haitian or from Springfield. The woman who reportedly ate the cat was from Canton, Ohio, 100 miles away, and according to Canton police, is a US citizen born in Canton. The guy who mentioned the ducks at a meeting is a local podcaster and wearing a sweatshirt promoting himself for mayor. And local police say they have no reports of any pets being stolen, how the original post claims. Right. Regardless, right-wing rumors made their way to a number of elected Republican officials, including J.D. Vance, who tweeted, "Reports now show pets are being abducted by Haitian illegal immigrants." But there are no reports. And as the city's government website states, the Haitian immigrants are in Springfield legally. And this is how we got to Trump saying, and then the video goes on to loop. So how is this created? The first thing, or one of the first things I did once I had the script together, was I used graphics to increase engagement. I thought of myself as, if I were an audience member, how would I want to stay engaged? One of those tricks I used at the beginning was using a little time bar at the beginning, so you know the clip is gonna end. You don't necessarily know what's gonna happen after the clip, but something is coming. And then I like to include little illustrations throughout the video, not only to tell people where things are, like locations in Ohio, but to keep it moving, to keep people engaged throughout the entire video. And these visuals stay on brand with what we do at the Washington Post. Our account aesthetic is handmade, homemade, kind of casual, and that's what these still do while countering misinformation.
I'm a big fan of Carmella's edits. I love them.
Thank
I
you.
have to watch the video, all of them, because they're amazing. However, sometimes we do not have the time or the resources, as particularly small newsrooms or individual creators, to work on such amazing edits. What's important is that we need to understand that we do not need that much production value to tackle disinformation online or just misconceptions that people might have. It is very important, though, that we are online. So I wanted to show you an example of something that I did last year, actually 1 year and 1 day ago. I just checked it. 2 weeks before Eurovision happened last year. I guess not a lot of you are fans, but in Europe we're big fans. And I was covering the controversy around Israel participating, given what is happening in Gaza. And I saw that a lot of the comments, just a lot of people did not know how the contest worked. They didn't know what are the rules for countries to be there. So many comments, and I was like, well, this is really easy. I don't need a huge edit to tackle this. So I made this video. Why is Israel in Eurovision? In the past few weeks, I've seen dozens of comments with fake or misleading claims, so I thought I'd offer some context to understand the answer. People are often confused to see non-European countries taking part in the Eurovision Song Contest. The thing is that Eurovision is organized by the European Broadcasting Union, which is made up by public service broadcasters from all these countries. So actually, all these countries could participate, but some choose not to. In the case of many Middle Eastern and North African countries, that's because so far they've refused to participate if Israel is also there. But Morocco did take part in 1980, for example. Now, in the past few months, many artists and Eurovision fans have criticized the EBU's decision not to ban Israel from taking part in this year's contest, given what's going on in Gaza. The EBU has responded saying that Eurovision is apolitical, but many have pointed out that the exclusion of Russia in 2022 after it invaded Ukraine as an example of how the organization has sometimes taken political stances. So yeah, I think this is a really good example of like you cannot tackle this information or just misconceptions online if you're not there. If you don't know how people are reacting to things, if you don't know how people think about what's happening in the world, there's no way you can do it. But once you are aware of what's happening, it's really easy because you don't need a big production team. And actually people online, they're used to someone talking from their sofa, making a video. And that's something we can do as individual creators or small newsrooms. Or if you are as amazing as Carmella, you can make one of her amazing edits. There's one problem though. Fact-checking is great, debunking is great, but we know two things. It doesn't always work. Sometimes people keep those myths alive. It doesn't matter that they see a fact-check. And we also know that misinformation and lies travel faster than fact-checks do. So we need to think beyond the box. We need to do a little bit more. It doesn't mean that we should not do fact-check, but we can also do other things. Misinformation researchers in the past few years have been talking a lot about pre-banking, and I want to show you a video where we try to do a little bit of that. For context, self-ID or self-determination laws are a big controversy in Europe. They basically try to make it easier for trans people to change their legal gender, which often in countries like Spain and Germany, they had to go through years of medical exams, forced hormone therapy, judges telling them whether they were themselves or not. And they have become a big controversy in countries like the UK, where some people say that allowing them to make it easier to change their legal gender would be a danger for women in single-sex spaces. But we knew that these laws already existed in other European countries, so we made this video. Denmark, 5.9 million. Malta, 500,000. Ireland, 5.3 million. What are you doing? Wait for it. Norway, 5.5 million. Belgium, 11.8 million. Okay, I'll go make myself a ginger tea. So German. Portugal, 10.6 million. Iceland, 393,000. Switzerland, 8.9 million. Finland, 5.6 million. Spain, una diva valiente, poderosa, 48.3 million. And Germany, have you heard Wackelkontakt? 88.3 million. And yes, I'm obsessed. Wackel. So that makes 186 million people in Europe who live in countries that have introduced self-determination laws for trans people seeking to change their legal gender. And that's not even counting non-European countries that also have self-ID, such as Argentina or New Zealand. Wait, so all those people can just go to the local registry and declare their new legal gender? Some have wait times, but don't some people say that threatens women's and children's rights? Yes, but trans advocates argue that if that was the case, we would have seen it happen in these countries by now. I mean, 186 million people is a lot of people. So this video, we've done it twice. We did it in 2023 when Spain legalized self-ID, and we did it recently again after Germany did it. And both times it's gotten hundreds of thousands of views, and especially very positive engagement, which is not common when we cover trans rights because of the controversies around that in many countries across the world. And really positive engagement, lots of shares, which showed us that people found this coverage really useful to be prepared against misinformation, and people saying, thank you for that, I just sent it to my friend, I just sent it to my mom. So we thought that this is a really good way to prepare people against maybe misleading claims that they might be exposed to in the media or in other social media accounts.
Another way to work on media literacy among your audience is to get them to understand the stories and work on comprehension. So one of those ways we do that at the Washington Post is through breaking down stories with a lot of information. This is a story that's ongoing. It's about the Maryland man who was deported to El Salvador. I'm sure you all know about it, and it's ongoing. There are so many details that have changed since this video went up, but I'll show you the video, and then we'll talk about how it was made. I'm not returning him, and it's not up to us. Who? Our client. He was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. I told the US government they had to return him. But we say they don't. Why? Because the Supreme Court said the US must allow his return if he's released by the government of El Salvador. I'm not going to do that. New ruling, the Trump administration must produce records of their attempts to try and return this man. Who? Where's he from? This man, from Maryland. But he's not from Maryland. He fled El Salvador as a teen because a gang tried to extort his mom and recruit him. In 2019, a federal judge found our client is at risk of harm or death in his home country and prohibited his deportation. He's no longer eligible for that protection, plus he's in a gang in New York. He's never lived in New York. On March 15th, he was detained by ICE and sent alongside 200 other deportees to El Salvador. We paid El Salvador $6 million to take them. And we can't remove your client because he's in the custody of a foreign government. Where is he? A notoriously severe mega prison accused of violating human rights. El Salvador's president posted about offering to take convicted US citizens for a fee in February. Will he ever get out? Well, the deportees have no access to courts, and the president just said, and then it goes on to loop. I love doing loops. I think it drives engagement. I think it's fun and helps. I think it's engaging. When breaking down a complex story like this, there are so many details that go into it. Usually when I write a script, it's based off of one Washington Post article. Almost all of our content is based off of Washington Post articles. We wouldn't be able to do the work we do without the work of Washington Post journalists. But this particular story had 6 sources, and it was a lot of back and forth with my manager of just confirming what details should go in, how do we make the video more clear. And then once I got it approved, I shot, I edited, sent it off to my manager again for final approval, and then we go ahead and publish it. When I'm in this writing process, I'm thinking, if someone knows absolutely nothing about this story, how do I bring them up to a base level of understanding? And then I can start to add different details and nuance. But it's important to remember that often your audience might not know anything about what you're talking about, so bring everyone up to the same level first. Then once it's published, I can tell that this explanation was effective based on the engagement. On TikTok, it got over 700,000 views. On YouTube Shorts, it got over 2 million views. And views are important, but it's also important to look at how else are people engaging with your content? In this case, it's the comment section, it's likes, it's shares, it's, of course, views as well. So those are some of the layers that go into creating a video.
So on top of the challenges that we mentioned and the things we're trying to do about it, we as journalists face one additional challenge, and that is that people are increasingly turning to news influencers or news creators to get their information. And that's not necessarily something bad, but it is a challenge for us because we're trying to reach people and we face this new extra layer of competition. But I myself, as someone who both produces information but also gets this information from news creators, I think there's a lot we can learn about their rise. And one of those things is the way they are authentic and transparent about the way they work, the way they produce their content, and everything that they do. And yes, exactly. So that this is important because we're living in a moment in the midst of a crisis of trust in the media. I get it all the time that people come to me and they're like, I don't trust the media, but I trust you. And I'm like, but I'm the media. Like, what do you mean? Like, I am a journalist. I work for Reuters ultimately, which is like, there isn't anything more legacy media than Reuters. But for some reason, people seem to trust me more. And I ask myself why. Like, what do I do that is different than the media? Because I am the media. And so I want to show one video that I made recently for my personal channel and talk a little bit about what I did here and why I think that's related to the issue of transparency.
I've seen a lot of comments saying that Trump actually supports the rise of gays and lesbians abroad. So I thought, let's fact check it. I did find one thing I'd forgotten about. In Trump's first term, his ambassador to Germany announced a global initiative to decriminalize same-sex relations. Trump seemed not to know about it at first, but months after, he said this at the UN.
My administration is working with other nations to stop criminalizing of homosexuality, and we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ people who live in countries that punish, jail, or execute individuals based upon sexual orientation.
Queer activists call that a PR move. Either way, those words do not match his vibe in 2025. So I called someone who studies LGBTQ+ rights across the world.
When we look at the evidence, one, if there was a serious effort to decriminalize LGBTQ people around the world, then they would have filled the position for Special Envoy for LGBTI rights, which was vacant when the Trump administration took over at the beginning of 2017 and was left vacant the entire time that he was president. So there was no one actually put in charge to run that. When we look at the countries that did criminalize during that time, which was 2019 and 2020, it was Botswana and Gabon. both of which had nothing to do with US-led efforts, but actually activists on the ground that were pushing for that. And also, when we see the things that happened to LGBTQ people during that time, like the raids in Chechnya, where police in Chechnya were rounding up mostly gay men, putting them in camps and basically torturing them, the administration was silent on that, right? So when we look at beyond this headline, what happened during that term, there is no evidence to show that this was an actual initiative besides one meeting in Berlin.
So I was really surprised when I saw people in the comments saying that Trump, actually supports the rights of gays and lesbians abroad. And I'm like, why are so many people commenting about this? Because I myself could not answer that as someone who only covers this issue. Like I only cover LGBTQ rights. That's my full-time job. So I think what's important here is that I myself tell people from the beginning, I don't know about this. I'm going to research, and you're coming with me to research that. So I find a video, do a little bit of Googling, and I show something. A video that surprised me, but Trump actually saying LGBTQ, and I support them, which is very different to what he's saying now. And then in the end, I talked to someone who actually knows about this, and there's a little text insert which you might have missed, which also says that I actually reached out to the White House and the State Department, because that's the role of a journalist, that we cannot just talk to activists. So I think the difference here is that people really come with you throughout the whole research process, and you acknowledge what you don't know as a journalist, and it's much easier to acknowledge, to trust someone who acknowledges their limits of knowledge than to trust someone who might come across as someone who talks down to people online.
Along those same lines, like Enrique's talking about, transparency in the process is really important and incredibly helpful. As journalists, it's often easy to assume that everyone kind of knows what you're doing, because sometimes it's not that interesting. You're just reading and writing and typing. But by sharing that process online, by sharing that process with your audience, it really helps to build trust. Pulling back the curtain a little bit helps to build trust in the audience, and you can see that in the comment section. But when you do that, how do you keep that content engaging? Because again, the process sometimes isn't that exciting. I'll show you the video, we'll talk about it. We've released the JFK files. What does this mean? 60,000 pages related to JFK's assassination are now public, and a lot of redactions have been removed. So what's in them? The Post is still reviewing them, but so far nothing has challenged the conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman in Kennedy's assassination. Yeah, I think that's all of them. Okay, see you in a sec. Anything else? It looks like a lot of social security numbers and private information of people who worked on the Kennedy assassination investigation. Is that big news? Well, a lot of those people are still alive, so it's absolutely a Privacy Act violation. These individuals can be doxxed now, including myself. It's like a first grade elementary level rule of security to redact things like that. Wait, so did you read all 60,000 pages? Not yet. We're only one entity. And so far, all these Post reporters have contributed to reading them. Whoa, that's the work it takes, especially when an administration says something like, and then it goes on to loop. When showing the process, even if it's a little peek, I like to include that in moving visuals. So I could have just left this slate up there, and that would have been pretty boring, I think. But by adding a little bit of animation, I think it keeps it engaging, even if you aren't necessarily reading every single name. And I also want to make sure that when I'm including a peek behind the curtain, that it's after I give people a reason to care. I already shared the story, I already shared the news story of what was happening, and now that they have context, by providing this slate, now it actually has meaning and value to what we're talking about. And we can also, again, tell that this video was successful, of course, by views, but also by likes, comments, and shares. Now, this is our last slide, so we're gonna open it up to questions in just a minute. So if you have any questions, keep them in mind, we're gonna ask them. But again, when you're measuring success, it's not just about views. Views are, of course, awesome. When you can say you get 1 million views or 2 million views or whatever, it feels good. But that's not entirely impact. What does impact look like? It looks like people in the comment section saying, I appreciate you explaining this. I didn't understand this topic before. Maybe can you explain this a little bit more? These are some comments from the first video that we talked about, of someone saying, as someone in Ohio, thank you. Thank you for this. I've seen 1 million posts saying it's information, which seems obvious, but I just couldn't find out where it originated. This was clear to some, but thank you for making a video and summarize it. So it's all these little details that help to tell you that you're doing a good job. And sometimes the comment section, to be really honest, aren't that nice, and that's okay too. It's important that if you're not getting not nice comments, maybe where are the elements of truth in there? Is there anything you can pull in and put into your work? And if not, keep it pushing. Keep posting content, keep moving forward, because technology is evolving, the news industry is evolving, and that's how you get better, is by continuing on.
Also, it's very important, yes, we are social media or social media focused journalists. It's important to measure impact online, but it's also important to think of the impact that you're having offline. How is this changing people's lives? And I wanted to tell you a story. So I recently went to Kenya to produce a short documentary there, and we were filming a scene in the office of the biggest LGBTQ charity there. And then this young person comes running towards me, and they're like, oh my God, you're the guy from Openly, I love your work. And I was like, oh, how? Like, I've never done anything about Kenya. It's the first time I'm in this country. I don't cover Kenya. Like, how? And they were just really, really happy, and they were really thankful for our work. And to me, that was the first time that I realized, well, what we're doing actually makes a difference for people out there, not just people who, you know, like, people like me in Berlin who have a lot of privileges, but also people in countries that I don't know about and for which this journalism that we're doing makes a difference. So also, I think when you're thinking about how does this journalism on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube change people's lives, it's not only about the 1 million views, as Carmella said. It's not only about the online engagement. It's also about how this changes people's lives offline.
Sweet. Now we're going to open it up to questions. There are 2 icons in the back with mics, so raise your hand and they'll come to you. Oh, we have one excited person over there.
Hi. Hi, my name is Palomi, and I'm actually a fan of your videos.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. First one, how are you like making these videos knowing that there's going to be a possibility that you might be mocked or just like insulted in the comment section? And my second question is, aren't you afraid of backlash that you might receive from the Trump administration?
To answer your second question first about backlash, my job is to work as a journalist. Fortunately, I work at the Washington Post, and I'm part of a team of people who I rely on to confirm that my information is correct and it's factually accurate. And that's what I stand by. I'm going to stand by that content regardless of whether it's this administration, the next one, the previous administration. We report on the news, period. To answer your first question about how do you feel about potentially being ridiculed in the comments, okay, so the tea with the comments is, I know and I stand by the work that I put out, and I've done this for a while, and I know that a lot of the mean comments are people bored. They're probably not happy with their life. And like, who has the time to like make a mean comment? Like, okay, bye, next. So I also look for, you know, who are the nice people in the comments? Particularly, okay, when we started on TikTok, it was a lot of like girlies in the comments being like, oh my God, thank you. And I was like, thank you, I appreciate it. On YouTube, that's a little bit different. The comments are a little bit different. And it just takes time of being out there, and you kind of get to see through the mean comments.
I also would like to add, it's okay to feel bad. Like, people are really nasty online, and even the smallest things can make you feel bad, and sometimes someone will like make fun of you with something that is actually absurd. Like, I constantly get people like in the comments making fun of my accent. I'm like, well, I speak 4 languages. How many do you speak, right? Like, we're making fun of my accent. At least I'm making the effort. But when I go to bed, that's what sticks with me, right? Not the 10,000 likes that were people who actually support my work, right? So I think it's okay to acknowledge that, like, you know, people are really, you know, mean online. And also that it's particularly bad for, you know, worse for women, people of color, trans people than it is for, you know, white cisgender men like me. But the issue of online abuse is a, you know, growing issue for, I think, journalists who are on camera. And I would really like to see newsrooms step up and do more to protect the people who are brave enough to be on camera, because it's not, you know, it's not easy many days.
In the center. Also, okay, Fierce Beat. All right, serving an outfit and a look.
Thank you. Apology for my voice. I lost it, but, oh, sorry. How long does it usually take you guys to create your content, like research and the videos? And personally, me, I always wanted to be a creator, but my fear is never being satisfied with my work. So what's an advice for that?
Okay, so for the fear of never being satisfied, that's, girl, I'm dealing with that. If you have the question, if you have the answer to that, like, please let me know. It's about being like, okay, this is good enough. This is good enough. I stand by this. I did the reporting. I added enough details. The news is going to keep happening. I need to just let it go. And all those, you know, teeny tiny little edits I want to make, I can do that in the next one, and that's okay. But if you're not putting out content, no one's gonna see it and you can't get better, right? And that's a lot easier. I can stand up here and say that. It's easier said than done. And then in terms of the editing process, it can take anywhere from 4 hours to, a couple of days. The writing process for me, when it's quick, takes about an hour. When it's long, it takes about a week. The editing process, when it's quick, it takes an hour and a half. When it's long and there are a lot of details, it can take 4, 5, 6 hours. It can take a couple of days. It can take a couple of work days. So it's something you figure out as you keep actually putting out content, and you can work it out.
Also, the more content you make, the easier it will get, the faster it will go. So start making content, make as much as you can, and then you will get better at it. Let's move to the next question. What was the question? We have 5 minutes left.
Oh wait, hang on just for the mic so everyone can hear you and the recording can hear you.
Hello, thank you for being here in the first place. I would like to ask a question about deepfakes. Deepfakes are the trend right now, and how do you guys counter deepfakes in journalism, especially?
I do not think we're qualified to say. I would say we would rely on an expert, and then we will make the content that helps that debunking reach more people. But we're not experts in identifying, spotting deepfakes. But it's really scary. Something that I've started doing now as an individual creator is to watermark all of my content, because I am terrified that people because a lot of people do not really like what I do. And I'm really terrified that someone just takes an image and it puts me out there saying something that I haven't really said, or just a small edit, changing one word can ruin my career. So something that I do is to watermark my personal contents. The work content is watermarked. But yeah, that is, I would say, a fear for a lot of people that are on camera. But I don't think we're deepfake experts.
Yeah, that's the benefit of working at a large organization, because if that does start to happen, that is going to my manager first thing, then that's going to lawyers and people above me. But yeah, it's definitely a problem for sure. Right in the center. Down here in the front. Stand up so they can see you. Yeah, be confident. Come on, work. Hey.
Okay, so my question is that with media and algorithms, they tend to skew to what you see and what you like. So how do you feel you can reach people that wouldn't necessarily agree with your content, or don't tend to agree with you? Because I feel a lot of the point of what you do is to show a perspective to people who wouldn't agree. But do you feel that your content reaches those people, or people who tend to support you?
I think in terms of audience reach, that's one of those things where sometimes it's not necessarily within my control. I can do the best that I can with the content that I'm putting out. And we cover a range of topics. So maybe you're not gonna see the video on Trump, but you'll see a video on healthcare or on climate. Again, it's one of those things where we're not in control of the algorithms, we're just working within them. And so that's why you use a bunch of different techniques. So you use a strong hook, you use engagement techniques with graphics throughout the whole video. And I feel in the comments sometimes you definitely see that you're reaching people that don't agree with you just based on what they're saying. But yeah, how do you reach people?
I think social media in many ways is a bubble, right? Because that's how algorithms work, but that's not always all the time. And you will know that you're reaching people that don't agree with you, because they're gonna let you know in the comments and you're gonna feel very bad about it, or you're gonna have a lot of fun. It depends on the day. I definitely reach people that do not agree with me. But also my views are not, so it's their problem, because I'm a journalist. My opinions are not in the video. If you think that's an opinion, that's your problem, because you didn't watch carefully enough. But yeah, there are people that do not like what we do, the way we do it, or the topics that we cover. But I think, yeah, our job is to go beyond those bubbles of people that already, maybe I just say agree with you, and try to inform more people. But I think we cannot change how the algorithm works. We can only try to use it in our favor to reach more people who want to be informed.
All right. Oh,
Do we have one more question? Can we answer one more question? No,
you're real fast. Don't disappear yet. And then, all right.
Okay, be really speedy.
Hey, you know what? Just still microphone. Let's be real fast here. You can use my mic.
Hi, my name is Jay Abubakar. I'm a third-year strategic communications major from Hampton University. And my question is, you talked briefly about making global connections and understanding the global context. Is that something that's usually easy to bridge the gap for, or does connecting the dots get difficult at times? And how do you combat that?
So how do we connect to a global audience?
Globally. So I mean, I think here, like we're all like everyone here, I think, you know, you live in the US, you have a very like national, and that way the way we do content is very differently because our audience is totally global. Like, I think our main countries is like US, UK, South Africa, Indonesia, and then someone else, I think maybe Kenya. So that's kind of like crazy because like, how do you keep all those people engaged? I think for me, and we want to talk a little bit about it in the next session, but it's about connecting the dots. Like when we talk about Trump, what does Trump mean for people, you know, on the ground in South Africa, in Namibia, in Kenya? Not what, you know, what it means for people in DC or for people in, you know, other EU institutions. But it's also just about taking a step back as a journalist and thinking, okay, this is the headline. Trump has announced this, but what does it actually mean for people? And I think for that we often, we really need to like realize what our privileges are, what we know, maybe we have time to know that other people do not have time to know. And you know, an example that I always use is like with my colleagues, like this country has passed a new self-ID law, but what does this mean for people? Like how is it gonna change people's lives? And that is how I think we can manage to reach a much more global audience and, you know, make those connections globally, focusing on the human impact.
Thank you.
Let's,
Thank you everyone for your time.
Let's give a hand. Let's give a hand. Thank you, Enrique, Carmella.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So this session is done. If you're running off to other classes and things, have a great day. But if you are part of the summit, we have 2 workshops happening. The two, Enrique and Carmella, are going to be upstairs, which is full. But the FOIA workshop, which is going to be happening right next door, will be starting both at 3 o'clock. So if you are signed up for either of those workshops, 3 o'clock. Thank you.